You're listening to the Electronic Media Collective Podcast Network. Yeah, it's a mouthful. For more great shows like the one you're about to enjoy, visit electronicmediacollective.com. And now, our feature presentation.
In a world where film studios have pillaged every young adult novel, DC'd every comic book series, and Frankensteined every silver screen monster in search of the next movie mega franchise. Two nerds, two movies, one cinematic universe.
This is Jasper.
And this is Randy.
We watched two movies.
Two movies chosen by our guest.
Dun, dun, dun.
We're joined today by a special guest, Dustin Smothers.
This is Dustin.
The metal mouth of Midwest podcasting. I think that's what Jesse decided you'll be now.
Yeah, it's to be the metal mouth of to be determined.
Yep.
So we'll see. But yeah, it's good to be here. I've enjoyed this concept. When you guys launched this, probably about 6-8 months ago.
Yeah, like
I want to say 8.
Yeah. So it's cool to be here because this is right up my alley. I'm the type of guy that thinks Snowpiercer and Willy Wonka are related. So I'm here for this. So I'm excited for this one.
Snowpiercer and Willy Wonka. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, no, we don't have time to dive into that. But God, how could you throw that out and not have us? Woo, that's interesting.
I see. That's one that I can't take credit for. There's another dude on YouTube that did it already, but it's like you got to check it out. Like I'll do a plug for that because I have nothing to plug. But Snowpiercer and Willy Wonka are totally connected. Check it out.
Dustin, you've been on the Grawlix podcast with us before. Was it just the once, or have you been on twice?
I know I was on once. We talked about Westworld, and then I guess that might have been it because
Westworld, and then again talking about Cobra Kai.
Yes, that's
it was. Yes.
So I've been on 2 Grawlix Bites episodes. Actually, I don't think I've ever been on Grawlix proper.
That last one you were on, I should have just titled that as a Grawlix proper because that's what we've been doing the first episode of Grawlix of the month anyways, just talking TV. But now you're on the Grawlix Cinematic Universe. This is the other side. This is the other side of Grawlix.
Top tier of podcasting right here.
We're the cool side of Grawlix.
Well, and it's a pleasure to meet Jasper. We've followed each other for a little bit. I accidentally unfollowed you last week when I did the purge, but I figured it out really quick and refollowed you.
I feel so lonely now.
I'm super excited to have our first non-Grawlix guest on Grawlix Cinematic Universe. Dustin recommended, because I threw it to him, and also I appreciate you kind of stepping into the episode last minute. It was just a couple days ago that I threw this at you. So yeah. Awesome. And you recommended Big, but you weren't sure what to pair with it. And the first thing that come to my mind was Jack. And I was like, but maybe I can find something better. I couldn't. Jack is seems the most fitting thematically to put with Big.
Right.
So that's what we're going to be talking about. And we're going to do Big first, right?
Yep. So we have the 1988 Tom Hanks movie. Mm-hmm. The overview is a young boy, Josh Baskin, makes a wish at a carnival machine to be big. He wakes up the following morning to find that it has been granted and his body has grown older overnight. But he is still the same 13-year-old boy inside. He's still the same boy. Now he must learn how to cope with the unfamiliar world of grown-ups, including getting a job and having his first romantic encounter with a woman. What will he find out about this strange world? The screenplay is Anne Spielberg. Director is Penny Marshall. Yeah, okay. Spielberg's sister. It was actually her and Gary Ross. Starring Tom Hanks, Elizabeth Perkins, Robert, I don't know how to say this guy's last name. Loggia?
Yeah, Robert Loggia.
Robert Loggia, John Hurd, Jared Rushton, and David Moscow. Also John Lovitz.
And you said, in a tiny little bit piece.
Right. He's
a bit part. And you said it was directed by Penny Marshall?
Yeah.
Okay. So now, Dustin, you picked this. I'm assuming you'd seen this before. I'd seen this before. Jasper, had you seen this?
I actually think I have. I don't remember a lot of it, but I remember the two big things I remember is the piano scene and when he shows her the apartment.
Okay.
I remember seeing those.
So, Dustin, why did you choose Big?
Well, it really boiled down to a few months ago. I was at Walmart, and it was in the $3.74 bin. And I said to myself, I need to get that because I need to show it to my son. And because I thought he would get a kick out of the fact he's 6. Like, what kid doesn't think about being big when they grow up? And I think that's why this movie really connects with people, especially children, is that, we all think that it's like glorious to be an adult, but you find out quickly that it's actually the worst.
Sucks.
and so it really boiled down to, it was a movie that had been on my mind. I'd wanted to watch again for a while. And I said, hey, that's, to me, that was my introduction to Tom Hanks too, back in '88. It's just a movie that I think I wanted a reason to sit down and watch it. And then when you mentioned Jack, it was just like, yes, that is the ultimate pairing. Both movies that I adore for a variety of reasons. They're very close to my heart. One of them is a little sadder than the other, but
that's true. That's true.
But it has like such an iconic scene. You talk about the scene at FAO Schwartz, the piano and everything. I mean, even if you've never seen this movie, you've absolutely seen that scene.
Yeah, this was a movie. This is one of those, Jasper pointed out that this came out the year he was born. So that tells you how old Jasper is. I don't know how old you are, Dustin, but I'm assuming Jasper's still the baby of the show.
Yes, I would have been 5 when this movie came out.
Oh, dang it.
Wow, okay. Yeah, me and Dustin are just about the same age. But this is a movie that ran on TV like Super Saturday, Super Sunday, ran on TV on the weekends nonstop. This, Breakfast Club, and stuff like that. A lot of those 80s movies that just ran through the 90s on weekend. So I've seen this multiple times, but it's been a long time, easily 15 more years.
Yeah,
since
I would
I'd
agree
seen
with
this
that.
last. This was a refreshing watch. I was surprised by how quick it moves along, especially at the beginning. It doesn't waste time like getting into it. We get a little bit with what's his name? What's his character's name? The Tom Hanks character with
Josh.
Josh. We get a little bit with him as a kid, but it's not overdone. It's like whatever he likes. He likes computers. He likes those horrible. Well, actually, that actually had pictures, but those old Dungeons and Dragons style word computer, like text-based computer games.
Yes.
He doesn't like taking out the trash. Whatever. He's a regular kid, and it doesn't really dwell in that area too long before it gets to the point. But the main thing that really surprised me on this takeaway is, and I'm not saying it's not funny, but how much of it is played straight and seriously versus like an outright comedy. Like I was remembering more of a, I was expecting more of a, not a screwball comedy, but more comedic moments. And they're there, but it's a pretty fair balance of, it's kind of comedic, but also kind of serious.
I think that's the thing about 80s movies, though, is like they had heart. Even the comedies had heart, whereas today it is just nonstop laughs, slapstick humor. The 80s, I watch movies from that era, and I find myself wondering why movies today don't have the same amount of substance.
Mm-hmm. What was your impressions of this, Jasper?
I really liked this one because it was weird watching him go from a kid to an adult. And me watching, I'm like, man, I kind of want to go from an adult to a kid. Like you kind of like watch it through that perspective the whole time. But I like how he's like, he's got the mind of a child, and that's how he's going through the toy company real fast. But I really liked it. I liked how kind of it was paced, and like you guys said, it had that heart into it. But I really liked this one. It was really fun to watch.
Mm-hmm.
I'll tell you one thing that absolutely stood out to me this time watching it, because like you, Randy, I haven't probably seen it since I was a teenager. Maybe early 20s at best. My sensibilities have changed, and the way I think about things have changed. And boy, that I find myself questioning things like, wow, wonder mentally what this would have done to Elizabeth Perkins' character to fall for a 13-year-old and find out that he's a 13-year-old in a 30-year-old's body. What like the legality of the situation? Like, is that borderline child abuse? At what point? All these questions I have. Things I would have never thought about when I was a kid. And maybe that's why movies felt like they had more heart back then, is because you didn't overthink it. But one thing that did stand out was that the friend Billy drops the F-bomb, and this movie's rated PG. Like, that's how different times have changed. Like, those are the things I noticed when I watch these movies from the 80s.
The standard F-bomb or the really offensive F-bomb? There's just the standard F-bomb, right?
Yeah, he just says F you, I think, like he yells F you to Josh at one point.
Yeah, he says, who the F do you think you are?
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. That didn't even register. The other F-bomb, the one that since we started doing this, and it's not all 80s movies, but we've watched a lot of 80s movies, is the super offensive F-bomb tends to hit, like, it's in all the 80s movies. So I was kind of like, even the kids movies, especially the kids movies, because back in the day, people, the homophobic F-bomb.
Oh, yeah.
And back in the day, especially, 80s movies and kids movies, the boys would call each other that all the time.
I had an interesting discussion with some people. That wasn't in this at all, but there's the use of it in movies today that take place in the 80s and how I feel about that, and it's like I would give a pass to the movie Big if they dropped that F-bomb, but if they remade Big today and it was set in the 80s, they would not get a pass for that. And I think that's something that I accept a lot about cinema and pop culture from a bygone era, is that it's going to have moments that may make you uneasy if you place today's sensibilities on them. And obviously we've come a long ways as a society since these things were made, but it's still weird to hear the F-bomb in a PG movie. Like, you would never hear that today. That thing would be rated R instantly.
It's kind of interesting. This has come up maybe twice I want to say the last year on regular Grawlix, on Grawlix Prime, as we call it behind the scenes. Stranger Things, they had a character drop the F-bomb, but it was not the, like, 80s casual F-bomb. It was obviously a character, I mean, it's still not necessarily necessary, but he's not supposed to be a likable character. But we also read a comic book that took place in the 80s in which one of the main characters uses it as an insult to some other characters, and this is one of our main characters. And so it's kind of period appropriate, but at the same time, it's like not, it's like, ooh, like I get it, but it's not really necessary. And even though they had another character who was a little bit more woke and commented on it, but is it necessary if you're just trying to emulate a work from that piece or from that time period? Anyway.
I say absolutely not. Like, I don't think it is at all. Like, I think you can be more creative than that. And, you're not tarnishing the legacy of a generation by by not using certain slang that was considered to some less offensive. And I think that's the key, is that it was always offensive to some people, but those people just didn't have a voice in the 80s.
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah. I mean, it's definitely a thing that there ne's to be a reason. Like, that sounds ridiculous, but you know what I mean? There needs to be a valid story reason to justify it. Otherwise, it's just
shock value.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry for that aside, but no, it was not in Big. That's seriously one of the things that goes through my mind now when I started 80s movie, and I'm like, I hope it's not. I hope it's not. Don't be in Big. It's in RoboCop. It's in Monster Squad. It's in all of it. Like, you just don't be in Big. You know
what isn't in Big though? Zoltar. And when I was a kid, I was obsessed with those machines. Like, I thought it was the coolest. This like story, fortune teller, like, totally. If anything, that Zoltar would be the thing that wouldn't be appropriate today. Like, that probably is playing on a stereotype of a nationality there. But I thought the machine was cool, and I wanted one when I was a kid. Like, anytime we were on a boardwalk or on vacation, I saw one, I had to put a quarter in it.
I really like how creepy it makes it. The movie makes it. How creepy his first encounter with it. The sound when it opens its mouth, the fact that its eyes are just straight red, like red light. I just like how creepy that whole thing is. And something that it didn't occur to me till a little bit later in the movie, once you see Josh's character start to turn, which is interestingly right after he gets laid, he starts to act more like an adult. I thought that was kind of.
You mean when he was statutorily raped? No, I'm sorry. I mean, so I couldn't help it.
We can dive into that more, because that is something like that was the most perplexing thing to me on this rewatch. But before that, I want to say, really, something I didn't realize is this is just an extended Twilight Zone. This is totally a Twilight Zone episode. Because, I mean, if it was just like, he's a kid and maybe he'll learn a lesson, blah, blah, blah. But it's specifically living in the world as an adult. He starts to become more of an adult. He starts like, he's too busy to hang out with his friend. I'm like, this is handled very much like a Twilight Zone would handle this exact type scenario. And that's always a good thing for me. I'm always a fan of that. Speaking of the things that stuck out to me on this rewatch, one, as far as his family knows, he was kidnapped and held hostage somewhere. And I don't know if it occurred to me when I was a kid watching this, but how horrible that would be for his parents, and the movie puts no attention to that at all. Like I was expecting at any point for it to cut back to his parents' house and his mom's just weeping because that's what she would be doing. And I'm like, this is a horrible thing that he's actually, well, he didn't know it was really going to happen, but it's a horrible thing that he's doing. And then he writes these letters, and it's supposed to like I understand his logic. He's trying to make them feel better because he's still gone. But the letters are basically like, I'm being held hostage. And you know what? It's okay. It's like brainwashing hostage letter. It's crazy.
It's okay. I have Stockholm Syndrome. No problem. Thanks, Mom and Dad. See you soon.
It's like a camp. It's fun. I even get outside sometimes. It's like, oh, man. I don't know how much better that makes them feel.
I got to go now, Mom. My daily programming is right here now. I have to leave.
Yep. Oh, and I guess the other thing watching this that made me feel old was the trampoline scene. I was so nervous. There's these huge windows. The trampoline's right against these row of windows. And I'm just like, somebody's going to die. They're going to fly through one of those massive windows and plummet to their death.
This is so dangerous. This is how it should have ended.
Yeah.
They both go flying to their death out the window for sure.
My adult moment for this, like my adult thinking was when he turns back into a kid who like finished his lease for his apartment, you know, like
why didn't he have a U-Haul truck haul all that cool stuff over to his parents' house?
No kidding. He still bought that, right? Like he could go over and go pick it up sometime, but you just have to explain where it came from.
I got this from camp.
That lady has to feel so weird, especially even if she just thought maybe he was crazy. Even after in the movie that she kind of like bought into it, you could tell on her face that it didn't really honestly become reality until she watched him turn back into a child.
Right.
But you had a good point.
She gets out of there.
What
quick.
Does that do to her?
She does not want to meet his parents.
And on the one hand, I'm so conflicted about the relationship aspect because it kind of works. I like her performance in that. I kind of get invested a little bit, but more from her point of view where she's just like obviously into this guy and it's going to go bad for her. At some point it has to. But also like she probably should have been into this guy. Like I get the whole, and both of these movies do this. The whole like, I mean, listen, if women were into guys because of their childlike innocence, I don't know. I don't get it. I don't know. I don't buy into that.
Well, yeah, because like you want to feel sorry for her, but then she also was attracted to a 30-year-old to her with the mental capabilities of a 13-year-old.
That's exactly it. It's
sort of on her.
She should have recognized that, if anything, he's developmentally challenged.
Yeah.
Oh.
Well, and honestly, like I'm sitting there throughout the movie, and obviously I kind of alluded to it. Like, for the first time ever, I'm watching this movie, both of these movies, and questioning whether, like, should Elizabeth Perkins and Fran Drescher's characters be talked to by the police? Probably. But when I'm giving her the benefit of the doubt until she says, you should keep my number and get a hold of me in 10 years. That's creepy.
that is when it becomes. That actually made me chuckle a little bit, but that is when it goes straight into predator, like child predator territory.
Well, and it's cute when she even goes to give him a kiss, but then he goes for the lips and she goes for the forehead, but she's like stroking his ear, all weird. And it's just like, oh, like, he's 13. Like, why are you driving him home? I'd get out of there.
I have a feeling this relationship is going to set her up to put herself into very questionable relationships in the future.
Well, here's where I tie this into a TV show. I kind of teased you guys, and this isn't what we came here for, but I got to throw this out there.
Okay.
Elizabeth Perkins' character after this becomes insanely, just absolutely mentally distraught, moves to California, gets addicted to Xanax and Quaaludes, and becomes Celia Hodes in Weeds, and she gets into drugs, alcohol, and this is all why that Big is a prequel to Weeds. Boom, just gonna.
Nice. Wow, that's good. That is not a connection I would have made.
I just couldn't help it. As soon as I realized it was Celia Hodes, my brain started like wandering because I never made that connection that she was in this, because it's one of those movies that I didn't really know her back then, but obviously I'm a huge fan of the show Weeds, and so the first thing I was like, oh, it's Celia. And Peter McAllister's in this movie as well.
Yep. Peter McAllister. Sorry.
Rest in peace, John Hurd.
He is, but I just clicked that you used his overload name. I liked Robert Loggia.
Yes.
I don't know. Robert Loggia is good, but it's also good to see him in such like he's such a, like, even though he's the boss, like, it's such a friendly role. And, you know, so often he'll play kind of like the tough guy, kind of, or a kind of a scary character, intimidating character. And yeah, no, like, I kind of buy. See, there's aspects of this I buy. There's some stuff where you have to just roll with it. It's like, okay, they hire him even though, like, there's no way that social security number matches up with anybody. That, you know,
you're missing a couple numbers here.
He's like 12. What? Okay. Just stuff like that. Like, you overlook that. But there's certain things that I think works. Like, I kind of, given what they gave us for as Robert Loggia's character, I kind of buy that he'd be like into this dude, and it's just like, yeah, this will be your job now. You're great. You're giving us great ideas. Like, I buy all that. I think that stuff works. I do like the character arc that they put Josh through of, like, he's acting less and less like a kid because he's not in that world as much.
I think it's a narrative piece that really hits home for adults. I mean, I don't know if you guys have seen Christopher Robin that recently came out. Like, it's a story that can constantly be retold. The idea of losing your innocence and growing up and losing your childhood, you know, like imagination, and what that does to you as an adult, and trying to remind you to never let go of that and always be creatively thinking or using your imagination for those roles. And I think that's what makes this movie work, is that everybody can relate to some aspect of Josh's story.
And I'm sorry, Jasper, do you have anything else?
Yeah, I was.
Okay, I just make sure you had a between me and Dustin. I know if you had something to say, I know it would be difficult to put it in there. So I just wanted to give you an opportunity.
Oh, I'm good.
Nothing? All right. It's the Randy and Dustin show for the next hour.
Kill switch on the modules. Like,
yeah.
Yes.
Okay, your mic's off now. No. Visually and stuff, I think the movie looks okay. It's not the most stunning, but it's kind of like, you know, it's what it needs to be. It's what it needs to be. I like the look of his neighborhood, his childhood neighborhood.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess there's not a whole lot I can say on that. It's just
I commented at the carnival. I said I've never been to a carnival like that. Like, carnivals always look so cool in movies. They look clean and bright and fun. But when you go to a real carnival in real life, it stinks. The people smell like cabbage, and the games are rigged, and, like, there's people smoking cigarettes and hawking loogies everywhere. Like, it's not nice. So that to me was it felt good. Like, that carnival, like, that's an inviting place. And then the way they contrasted that with the Zoltar machine in the dark corner, I thought was brilliant.
That wasn't plugged in.
People smell like cabbage. They
smell like cabbage. You like that, huh? He's been losing it over here since you said that.
Tiny hands smell like cabbage.
Carny folk.
John Lovitz. We gotta throw some love towards John Lovitz. Probably one of his first. I can't think of anything he was in really before this.
He's just there because he's John Lovitz as a little side character. His character does nothing, and his character, there's no reason for it. I mean, he's whatever. He's just there. He's there for a couple gags, right, and to get some reaction. I guess shots to Josh in the workplace. But
would he have? Oh, I guess sorry. I looked it up really quick. I guess Three Amigos he was in before that. But I mean, this is like just post Saturday Night Live. John Lovitz probably.
That's a good point.
Oh no, sorry. I'm googling as we speak. 85 to 92, he was on SNL. So yeah.
But it was this is still when it was a big deal, when being a TV actor was not quite as respected as a film actor. So if they could get into films, it was kind of a big deal. Whereas now it doesn't matter. Everybody just,
Superman's doing a TV show, it doesn't matter anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
I did laugh at that scene, though, because how he already knows what to do.
Which scene?
Where he's talking to John Lovitz, and he's just already...
Lovitz is like, slow down. You're trying to get us all fired? Take your time. Yeah.
He's like, I do this in school.
I do have a couple other comments, but I'm going to... And I try not to compare the movies too much when we do this, although it inevitably happens anyway. But I definitely have some comparisons to make once we get into talking about Jack, that I guess I'll touch a little bit more on Tom Hanks's actual performance. But I thought Tom Hanks's performance was pretty good in this. He sells it well, for sure.
Well, I think it's a tall order if you're going to try to compare Tom Hanks' portrayal of a child to Robin Williams' portrayal as a child. Because, I mean, Robin Williams, if there was ever a role made for Robin Williams, it's that of Jack.
I don't disagree, but I have some heavy criticisms that...
I can't wait.
Yeah, I do. I have some heavy criticisms, which actually surprises me because it's not something I recalled thinking when I first watched Jack. All right, well, do we want to do some star ratings on this big?
Yeah.
Ooh, I'm not sure.
Where's Randy at?
Ooh,
What do you guys do out of 5? Is 5 the high?
Yeah, 5 is the high.
Okay.
And you can do half stars. Don't try to pull a Jasper and be like 2.8. Nope. You give me a 2.8, I'm gonna rate it. I'm gonna mark it down as a 3.
Once. I tried that once.
You tried that more than once.
It was 2.9.
2.9.
So close to a 3.
Yeah. Well, but the one little tip of the point is not gold.
Yeah.
That's his reasoning he gave me.
I really just wanted to see you make a star with a little.
I'm not going to do that. It was a pain to program in to get the 5-star system to work right. I'm not doing a 0.9. Crazy. Okay.
It was a good try. It was a valiant effort on my part.
Well, Jasper, I'm still like in my debating. Like I haven't marked it on Letterboxd, so I haven't set a concrete star number down. So I'm going to throw it to you first, Jasper, because I know you have given this a rating. What's your final thoughts?
So I gave it 4 out of 5.
Ooh.
I liked the overall story arc. I thought it was well done. I think Tom Hanks did a very good version of a older kid, and I think that the boss actually was what really sold me to this movie because like how he runs into him, and usually that's in the older movie. It was like he like turns into an animal, but he's like, oh, I like a little hustle, and then walks off.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, and then the piano scene it's like I said, it was just a well done movie all around. Mm-hmm. Yeah, 4 out of 5.
I supremely enjoyed watching Robert Loggia actually do that piece with Tom Hanks there, dance out that little song on the keyboard. Awesome.
Robert Loggia really reminded me of like the Santa Claus and Miracle on 34th Street. He was just like a whimsical old man.
Yeah.
Sort of that he had that vibe. And so that's he's a standout to this. I would give it a 3.5. I won't go over 4 just because it is I think it's lacking in a few things where I think as an adult I overthink things now and I expect a little bit more. But Tom Hanks' performance is great. But honestly, like seeing Elizabeth Perkins in something else was interesting. And so if I were to give it an MVP award, I would give it to Elizabeth Perkins because I think she plays that last 30 minutes really well. She is very torn in how she should really feel about this. And so, I would say 3.5.
All right. I'm really torn between the two. Like I've really, the whole time I'm like, should I give it 4? I don't know if it should be 4, but maybe. Normally I know. Normally I come to the show and I know. I'm going to go 3.5 as well because I think Dustin's right. It's lacking a couple things. There's a couple things that are underdeveloped. Like I think after a certain point, and I get that this is a reflection of how the kid's supposed to be feeling maybe a little bit, but after a certain point, once Josh gets into like working and doing the job thing, the subplot with his buddy, that little arc kind of falls off the map until his buddy shows up and is like, it goes from 0 to 60 on their relationship of like, he comes and hangs out all the time, and then all of a sudden he's just not there for a big chunk of the movie, and then he's mad because he's, I don't know. It's just that feels a little weak. Also, while I like her character, what did you say her name was?
Elizabeth Perkins. Her name is Susan.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Elizabeth Perkins. Susan. I don't know that I buy her as a real person falling for this guy. I understand the idea of it, but in the reality of it, he does seem challenged, and I don't know if I really buy her fully like committing to it. Like, I don't know, the early stages, I understand it kind of seems like maybe she's just, it's like McAllister said, she's working through the chain, right? So
Yeah.
I kind of buy that maybe she would like try to go home with him and all that, get into that situation. But I think after that situation, I don't see her actually then following through with like, oh, okay, maybe I'm not gonna. Something's weird with this guy.
Well, I think this is like one of those situations where if we had more background on her character, I guarantee you, like the writers, and there was some stuff probably left out where she maybe had given up the idea of a family. And maybe there's some, because you can see like there's a little bit of like almost she has a motherly reaction to him, which I mean gets even weirder when you start thinking about that she slept with him and all the stuff that happens. But I think there could be some sort of psychological issue there. Like maybe she has a little bit of arrested development, why she maybe latches on to somebody who's not quite emotionally capable of really sharing that side of the relationship with her. I don't know. I'm overthinking it, but that's I think what we're here to do is like kind of think about the character motivations, and it's just stuff that's probably never going to be confirmed. But that's what I took away from that character, is that she's obviously emotionally disconnected as well.
Man, I'm really rethinking my 3.5 though. I'm so torn. 3.75. No, I can't do that. 3.9.
I think it's one of the first times I've rated a movie over you.
It might be. No, there will be another time. Yeah, I'm going to stick with it. I'll go 3.5. I'm rethinking it so hard.
Are you sure?
I need to know. This is the first time I've ever like been this conflicted on it. 4 stars.
There we go.
4 stars.
There we go.
Big. It's a classic. It's not perfect, so I'm not going higher than 4 stars, but it is supremely entertaining. It's not quite as funny as I remembered, but at being not as funny as I remembered, was still kept my interest. So
It's the first time I've seen you question a star rating.
oh God, like that was hard. I've never done that. 4 stars.
How many stars, though? Here's a question for both of you. How many stars would you have given it, though, if she would have turned into a kid and they would have like
I wanted her to turn into a kid. I wanted her to make the wish.
and then extended it for like another 30 minutes and told the story of them growing up?
Oh
together?
no, that would have been too much. That would have been
Okay.
too much.
Well, I think that
back
obviously
up
the
then.
next thing that would have happened though is a teenage pregnancy. They would have probably ended up with a big issue there, because
Like a
it's not like they
young
would.
teenage
Would they have
pregnancy.
stopped messing around?
No. That's another thing. He's going to be a very advanced kid, so to speak.
He's like, since you don't have boobs now, I'm not into you. It's just, they break up.
Oh God. But I did appreciate, because they even like, set that up. He's like, you could make a wish, and she's like, oh no, it was rough enough the first time, you know what I mean? And he's like, she's like, oh, you don't know what I mean.
I didn't realize this, but Tom Hanks was nominated for Best Actor at the Academy Awards for this, and they were also nominated for Best Original Screenplay. And at one point, there was a television show in the works at Fox. As of like the last thing I can see of it is as of late 2015.
What?
It was still in pre-production.
That recent? Wow.
But I'm sure there would be something about it if it was still going. I'm sure that's something that got ditched. But the idea, like, there's a TV show there. I think that could be kind of fun.
There's definitely a TV show there. I have a feeling it would not be good. I don't know. TV now is so different. It seems very much like it. And you mentioned Fox. That seems like prime 90s Fox sitcom. But that would be terrible. But it seems perfect.
Here's 2 pieces of trivia here.
Okay.
There's 2 other people that were looked into for the role of Josh. One was John Travolta, and the other one was Harrison Ford.
Oh, geez. Both would have tanked. Neither of those would have been as good as Tom Hanks. Not a chance.
Robin Williams is also looked at, too. Travolta, I could see because he's just weird, and I could see anybody looking at him for a role, but Harrison Ford really got me.
Yeah.
I mean, Harrison Ford used to be, if you think about like Indiana Jones and stuff, like, or even as Han Solo, he wasn't necessarily associated with such serious roles as maybe he is now. But yeah, I don't know, man. Tom Hanks it's big.
Tom Hanks is in his 60s, right? Tom Hanks is in his 60s right now, and I still think he acts like he's a teenager. So, like, it just works. Tom Hanks has always had this like youthful exuberance.
Where's Big? Where's Big again? Let's see it.
Right.
Big again.
I want to be a senior citizen.
Okay. Wow, we spent a lot of time on that. Let's move on. Let's move forward.
Sorry, there's another 3. Bill Murray, Judge Reinhold, and Michael Keaton were all looked at for the role of Josh Baskin.
I mean, that
Bill
seems...
Murray would have been awesome.
Yeah, that would have been
Dennis
pretty
Quaid
good.
apparently...
It would have been a
said
very different movie,
he
though.
turned it down.
I think if Bill Murray had done it, it would have been rated R, and we'd be doing Caddyshack and Big, right?
Yeah, no, that's no kidding. All right. We're going to jump forward about 8 years. Jack from 1996. The overview is Jack Powell suffers from an affliction that makes him grow 4 times faster than normal. So the 10-year-old looks like a 40-year-old man. After years of being tutored at home, Jack convinces his overprotective parents to send him to public school. The children don't know what to make of Jack, but with the help of his 5th grade teacher, he makes an... That puts her in so much bigger role than what it feels like she actually is, but whatever. He makes an effort to win them over. Screenplay by Gary Nadeau and James DeMonico. I'm terrible with names.
Which sucks.
Inexplicably directed by Francis Ford Coppola. Dude, you made Apocalypse Now and The Godfather. What are you doing? Starring, of course, Robin Williams, Diane Lane, Brian Kerwin, J-Lo, Cosby. This is the first movie in a long time I've watched with Cosby in it, so that's interesting. Fran Drescher, and some other people.
Jennifer Lopez.
It's interesting to watch something with Jennifer Lopez from. I mean, it's 96, but from when before she was big, but that's before she
took off.
Was huge. Yeah.
That's before she became J-Lo. That's the...
Oh, yeah.
Because I remember when she became a pop star, thinking why is the lady from Jack singing and dancing on the Grammys right now? This is the movie I always related her to. And there was another... I'm trying to look it up. There was another big movie she had.
Selena is the one I always think of, where she played the role of a pop singer, a real life pop singer who was murdered. Selena.
I'm thinking of U-Turn.
Oh,
no, wait.
Really?
Yeah. Wait, no. It's got George Clooney in it. That I think Out of Sight. That's the movie.
Oh, Out of Sight. Yeah. Oh, yeah. That seems like when she really was skyrocketing. That's the big initial liftoff, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So Jack, I had seen this back in let's see. It used to take a while for stuff to hit video, so I'm going to say 1997. And I hadn't watched it again since then.
I had it dubbed off of HBO. I watched it a bunch because I would have been 96. I would have been 13. And I don't know, this movie I was at the time, Robin Williams was one of my favorite actors. I think that, he was on a tear there. I think I'd even really like him in Good Will Hunting around that time. So it was just a lot of things going where I was just drawn to him as an actor. But I probably watched this movie at least a dozen times when I was a teenager.
How about you, Jasper?
I've never seen this movie.
You've never seen it? Had you ever heard of it?
I feel like I have, but not now.
It's not a movie that gets talked about very often.
Yeah, I can see why.
Oh, this is going to be interesting. Okay, well, one of you guys, are you ready, Jasper? You seem like you're ready to start. What do you think of this?
Okay, so I did like this movie in the sense that it was kind of like Big, in that kind of, or a kid that looks like a man trying to fit in as still a kid.
Mm-hmm.
But my only issue with this was it was very slow to develop.
Mm-hmm.
And that I can't get over the fact that he's supposed to be 10, but he acts like 4. That just, I couldn't get up off that. I was like, this is just, why it's like he's mentally challenged and he's supposed, I didn't get it.
All right. Well, you 100% nailed one of my larger issues with this. I don't remember it striking me this way when I watched it back in the day. And I agree with what Dustin was saying earlier, is that Robin Williams is, to play a kid, it's perfect. He does that very well. The problem is and I get that he was homeschooled. He didn't really have the experience out in the world, but he does seem like he's playing like a 4 or 5 year old when he's supposed to be 10. The other kids they're all goofy, but they definitely seem way beyond him in terms of what the age they're supposed to be portraying.
I will say that, like, and it's not like I have a ton of experience with kids, but I mean, I would anticipate a little bit of lack of social development in Jack Powell when he would go to elementary school for the first time. So I guess I've just always kind of cut some slack on that regard, because up until that day, the only person he'd ever played with was his mom. And so to drop a kid in that situation, I could see them kind of being in that 4 to 5 to 6 year old like level of social interaction. And so I think that that's one of the nice things is as the movie goes, he develops a little bit and does start kind of acting a little bit more like a 10-year-old, and he lets loose and starts playing and starts not worrying so much about who he is or what his medical condition is.
This is true.
Well, and I get it.
It still bugged me a little bit. It still bugged me a little bit. Okay, but no, I'm not going to take over.
Well, if
okay,
your
so
therapist
Justin,
was Bill Cosby, you would probably be developmentally stunted as well. So.
Man, Cosby, that guy. Oh, what an extra jerk!
It's a Cosby sweater.
Gonna learn about math and Jello today.
So what are your all thoughts on this one, Dustin?
Watching it back, definitely not a good movie. Like, I will say that. Like, it's not like what I would consider at all a movie worth your time today. But it still had my member berries were tickled when I went back and checked it out, because there's still scenes that are pretty special. I think what stands out to me the most about it, and in both these movies in a way, is the childhood innocence of it. I think is nailed, where the kids accept Jack. Kids are what's the word I'm looking for here? Resilient. They're not weirded out by things. If you go back to Big and the way his mom reacts to him, doesn't even, want to hear it, obviously for a variety of reasons. But the kids, his buddy Billy, quickly accepts it. And same thing in Jack. The kids accept Jack. And what I love is the end of the movie when Jack feels he is shunned or doesn't belong. And all the kids come back to the house to ask, can Jack come out to play? The one by one. I think there's just something magical about that we don't see as much in movies. I think why Stranger Things is so popular is it kind of nailed childhood for me. And just, while I say it's still not a good movie, it's got a lot of issues. That's what still stood out to me and why I still think there's a place for Jack in my heart. It's because it is. It's a really heartwarming story about how kids are better than us as adults, usually.
I was really conflicted while watching through this because there's stuff that drives me crazy. And it's not even so much Robin Williams' performance, but that whole aspect of it does bug me. That, like, afterwards, when I was thinking about it, I was like, wait, that just doesn't seem right. But putting that aside, there are sections I like. I like the overprotective mom bit. I like Diane Lane in this quite a bit. I like that she's goofy and like is as childlike as he is. So that's interesting relationship. The kids react to him fairly naturally because they are weirded out by him at first. Some of them are kind of mean, but then once they accept him pretty quick and it's all good. But then there's parts where it's so cringy. And I get that, like, the whole thing is like, well, kids are cringy, and they are. But there's parts where it's like the kids are just so overly cringy. And the whole basketball game is a perfect example, like, where the kids are like really start to buy into him. Like, oh, okay, this guy's not so bad. That's a perfect example of why I'm so torn on this movie, because on the one hand, it's fun and it is kind of like a little heartwarming and it's a upbeat scene. But on the other hand, all the kids are reacting so cringy. J-Lo's reacting so cringy. And it's just a good example of like what works and what's not working for me, all of them at the same time, meshed together. And or the treehouse, which is fun, over the top. Kids built that thing. That's like a 7-layer treehouse. It's insane. But like,
now, we do know that kids in the 80s and 90s were much more industrious than the millennial children of today.
It's true. They didn't necessarily have as many things to distract them. They,
That's one thing I've always noticed about like Sandlot, all these movies with kids, is like they were so much more the engineering that children in the 80s and 90s were capable of far exceeds their capacity today.
They played Minecraft in real life. But, the treehouse is another thing. It's awesome. But then when they get up there, the stuff with the food I thought was humorous because I'm like, kids would totally do that. And the fart stuff kids would do, but I hated it. Like they get up there and then it just goes into straight fart comedy. And I'm like, I get it. They're a bunch of 10-year-olds, but oh God, come on.
Well, and I think there is something to be said about, as you know, being older, watching this movie as an adult, that it's weird. Like there's just, we've now got this age disparity issue. And I think for me, where it doesn't matter the story they're telling, it's still 40-year-old Robin Williams up in a treehouse doing fart jokes with 10-year-olds.
Hey, Jack, you ever get a boner? I was like, dude, oh, where's this? No, where's this going? Stop it.
Yeah.
And I get it. 10-year-old kids, you know, they'll say crazy things like that. But it's weird.
I also like how when the treehouse falls, it falls straight down.
Oh, that's so ridiculous.
It doesn't just like hit that top part of the second part and then just fly out of the tree.
I enjoyed that, but it's so like, again, it's the trampoline in the apartment where I enjoyed it. And I'm like, I even like how it's done. It looked ridiculous, but they went super cartoony. It's like, because Cosby goes up there and now there's 2 adults up there and like it's too much weight and the whole time it's creaking. And then it takes a butterfly landing on a twig that then moves over and hits the side. And that's what the final straw. So it's super cartoony and I enjoyed that. But watching it, I'm like, they're all going to get murdered in there. No one's going to survive that.
Those kids are alone in the treehouse with Cosby.
That's a whole nother thing. Cosby.
Yeah, it was weird. This was too for me. Like the first time I've watched Bill Cosby since. It's weird. It's kind of in that watching an old episode of House of Cards and seeing Kevin Spacey. You're like, ugh,
because Cosby was so, he was America's dad or whatever.
Yeah,
he was in so much kid-centric stuff because he's Bill Cosby, and now like after all this stuff came out, and he's just like a horrible person. And for the most part, it's like it happens. You got to kind of divorce the character from the actor, but
right.
Man, it's so hard. It's so hard.
It's a little too fresh right now.
Right.
I think it is, and I think that does it put the weird factor into this movie into a way that I hadn't anticipated I would have when I went back to watch it.
And it's not like he's making like sex jokes or anything, but whatever.
Luckily, there's no scenes of him like making Kool-Aid for the children or anything.
Serving Fran Drescher drinks or something.
Right.
That'd be a bit much. So let's talk about this, because this is interesting. I actually find the movie Jack handles the same type of situation that Big devotes a big chunk of its plot to. I kind of think Jack handles it better in that there's no relationship with Jack and Fran Drescher. Drescher, whatever. Drescher. But there could have been, but she recognizes like something weird about you. You're so childlike. I don't think I should be hitting on you anymore. And it takes a little while before she gets to that point, but she gets to that point before anything happens. And the lady in Big does not. So
yeah,
I kind of feel like
Fran Drescher doesn't ask to keep my number for 10 years, buddy. I can't wait to hook up with you when you look 80.
Oh, that's a good point. Well, watching Big, I'm like, I did laugh when she said that, but I'm like, it would be a win for her because she'll be 10 years older and he'll look like him, only even younger. He'll be 18-year-old him. That's a win for her. Cougar,
it really is.
But like the cougar shouldn't start when they're 13.
Right?
It's like if a cougar had a time machine, is what happened there.
Yeah, exactly. You're just plotting them out, planning them. You, here you go. Here's my number.
Save it, honey. You won't know why. I will say, Big had the best innuendo joke though of both movies. Is when she says, "Oh, you want to stay the night?" He's like, "Yeah, but I get to be on top."
I get to be on. Yep.
Oh. That's the best of both movies. The best sexual innuendo joke goes to Big.
Okay, a little bit of comparison time then. And I get there is a big difference between 10 and 13, like in terms of age and maturity. But I feel like Tom Hanks, the way the character's written and also performed, he's still a kid to a point where you're kind of like, adults should maybe be a little put off by how immature this guy's acting.
Right.
But it handles situations like that, I think, better than Jack, where he's so a small child in his mentality. the bar fight scene, where he's like, "Oh, you cussed, your mom's gonna." I was like, "Really, dude?
Yeah,
really?"
No, the people in Big that don't connect it are just dumb. Whereas I think the people in Jack who don't connect it are just assholes.
That's a good point. Yeah.
Sorry, I don't know if I can say that.
I'll bleep it. It's cool.
Cool.
It sounds cooler when it's bleeped.
I like it when it's bleeped.
Well, I will say that it makes me sound street smart, but also one thing that Jack doesn't have is a really street smart friend, because Billy hooks him up with a flop house, hooks him up with a job. Essentially, like, Josh is in great hands. Jack just needs a really street smart friend who can hustle.
You're right.
In the drug district of New York City.
That should have been Lewis. Yeah, no, you're right. And I was thinking about that while watching Big. Again, we're talking about Big. But when he takes him to the hotel, sets him up with the room, and then he's like, "All right, well, I'm going to leave. I got to get home by 10:30." And I'm like, this kid's going to navigate this pretty seedy looking part of New York after dark. It's like, it's no thing. And Josh is freaking out about.
Just flippantly tells him, "You better use the chain tonight, dude."
Yeah. So I'm like, that kid's got balls, man.
Yeah.
This kid's seen things.
And he's all the time.
Wrong kid made the wish. We'll put it that way.
Exactly. Yeah, his buddy would have been set. And interestingly, it felt like, and maybe they were going for an Oscar bait movie with this, but interestingly, it felt like this movie went for laughs more often than Big, but also actively tried to go for heart. And I feel like it was somewhat successful most of the time in that respect. Again, maybe a little too much though. Like, it's a little too, what's the word? Is it saccharine? Overly sweet? You know what I mean?
Yeah, excessively saccharine.
Yeah. But I don't think it's horrible. Like, it's such an odd movie.
Yeah, I agree. It's like I said, it's a movie that has a definite place in my heart, but it's not a good movie. Like, it's not one I'd be like, "Oh man, have you seen Jack?" And be like, when people are like, "No," like, I wouldn't look at them and go, what is wrong with you? But I think I would say that was Big. Like, if I talked to a person my age and they hadn't seen Big, I think I'd be a little more taken aback than if somebody like Jack, I don't know what that is, I'd be like, cool.
And Jasper, you were able to watch this on Hulu, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and well, Big is more accessible still too. Like, it's definitely the larger movie, better remembered.
I think a lot of it too is the performances. Like, it's one of Hank's first really big performances, whereas this Jack kind of falls in the middle of Robin Williams' career, where he'd already done like Dead Poet Society. He was the genie by this point. There's a lot of things Robin Williams had already done, so it doesn't stand out in his body of work. Whereas when you think of Tom Hanks, you think, oh, okay, Big, Turner and Hooch, and Joe and the Volcano. Those are the few first things that come to my mind.
By this point, Robin Williams, you're like, Robin Williams playing a kid? Well, of course. You're like, Right. Whereas, yeah, this is definitely, in 88, that's definitely in Tom Hanks' initial blowing up stage. It's cementing Tom Hanks. I guess my other major criticism of Jack, the score. I hate it. I hate it with a passion. Oh, it's so terrible. Because it's that, like, and it's been a long time since I watched.
Michael Kamen. I just looked up who did the music.
Was it Michael Kamen? It's that super, like, goofy comedy score where it's almost cartoon level, where it goes to like what's happening on the screen, like the dun, 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 somebody falls over, dun, 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 and it's like, no, don't do it, please.
It sounds like if you would have let Jack Powell score the movie himself.
Yeah, it's super cheesy, and maybe movies still do it, but it's been a long time since I've seen a comedy, but it definitely was a comedy movie thing where it just had this certain kind of score. Mm-hmm. The whole slapstick kind of opening in the hospital, that's kind of when I knew I was in trouble. I was like, oh, maybe this
he's sick as frick.
Maybe this isn't what I... Also, oddly, I guess Francis Ford Coppola views this as like a sci-fi movie, which for the most part, I don't see it, except there's a real disease like that, but it's not quite like that. But
yeah,
what are those robots doing the tests on the baby at the beginning?
Right?
Yeah.
These crazy robot arms and stuff. And I was like, what? What is
well,
this?
I guess we've never really, I guess there's no confirmation of what, I mean, is this supposed to take place in 96? Or is this potentially a movie set in the future?
I don't know. It's so hard to say.
There's nothing really that tips the hat to either way.
They never extrapolate on that.
For the sake of the future of this discussion here in a few minutes, it definitely takes place in 1996. I think that the ending is a little like jarring. I never really have cared for the ending where it's just like, oh, it's all good. He decides to go back to school, then hard cut to 7 years later, he's 80 and he's graduating from high school. While his buddies are going to go off to college, he's going to go off to the nursing home. And like that to me is such a bummer. Like, I think the movie would have been better to just end with like Jack finally finding that acceptance and just thinking, okay, cool. This kid's going to have a good rest of his life. Instead, they have to hit me over the head with the fact that he's going to die shortly after graduating from high school. Like,
yeah, and
it is kind of a bummer.
And they use it to, you're right, and they use it to try to reinforce the point of like, you don't know how long you have, but like we kind of got it, or you could deliver it in a better way. And yeah, I agree. I think a better ending would have just been him going back to class. Like, yeah. And that's it. You don't have to hard cut to graduation day, because you're right. That is depressing.
Because up until that moment, the movie isn't incredible. There's a few moments where like when he has the heart attack and all that, and it's, oh man, like that's the reality of the fact that, yeah, his body's 40, but his mind is, 10.
Which I actually think is a pretty good story beat too. I think that's a pretty good moment.
But then he overcomes that, and it's like, okay, cool. Oh, but yeah, like any happiness you had, just remember he's gonna die before he gets to go to college. That's how I took away. It's just like it hits you over the head with it, like, haha. At the end, it's almost for the sake of trying to give you, the viewer, a message. It's like, nah, I already got the message. Like, thanks again.
I did also. Could Jack come out and play? I did like that scene too. Like, there's even the cheesy scenes. There's cheesy scenes that I do appreciate in this movie.
That was a cool scene.
I liked it. Although he didn't go out and play, and I'm like, what are you doing, Jack? Like, after they're out there for like 3 hours, all the whole schoolyard is now in his street playing games. I would have expected he would have went out.
Come on out, Jack. They love you, Jack. Come on, Jack.
Go out there with your beard. Freak them out.
I think it's a power move. Jack wants them to all know that he's in control.
Right. The confirmed timeline is 1986, 1996, then 2003 at the end of the movie. So it's not a future.
So Jack just lived in a really rich neighborhood where they had really expensive nurse robots.
Yep. Well, yeah. Give birth to a baby after a month, they bust out the fancy robots. So Francis Ford Coppola, he's done a lot of very diverse work. And consistently, I mean, up to a point, he did a lot of movies. And I get, like, he's a big-time director. This kind of director will intentionally do a lot of different stuff. It's just so weird to think of, like, this is a Francis Ford Coppola movie. He's done some cinematic masterpieces. But he's also done some less than cinematic masterpieces. I don't know. It's just so strange. It's not poorly directed. I think it looks okay. But it's not like, expertly directed either.
I don't know if there's any truth to it, but like at one point I heard a story that he directed that for like his grandkids. Like it was more about doing something that his grandkids could see. And I could just be making that up too. I don't have that in front of me, but I kind of vaguely recall that. I'm having deja vu thinking about it.
That's what all the actors and directors say when they start doing crappy movies. Well, I got to do something the kids can watch.
I don't get it from where you go from Godfather to...
I think even before Jack, there's a lot of movies in between. He's
just
there,
like,
where it's just like,
F it.
He's just done a lot of stuff. It's not always good. That's fine. I don't blame him for getting a crush on J-Lo though. I get it, but she was super sweet to him. Like, I understand why she wasn't inappropriate, but I get it. Plus, that's like the first non-mom person he's ever interacted with.
You know what's weird is when I was watching Big and how she was kind of still okay with the, let me give you my number.
Uh-huh.
When he asked JLo to dance, I'm like, she's going to do it. She's going to do it, isn't she? She's going to take it. And then she's like, no, we can't do that. You're my student. I was like, oh, that's different from the last movie I watched.
Do you think you enjoyed this more or less because you watched Big before it?
I would say less in the fact that I thought the story was a lot better in Big.
Mm-hmm.
And it seemed more well-rounded.
Mm-hmm.
And this one just kind of, like I said, as soon as it kind of took forever to get the story going in this one, I was like, oh, okay. Like,
I feel like there's a couple moments that drag. I think Jack decides to stay home for a little bit too long.
mm-hmm.
For sure. I think that drags on a little long. Okay, guys. Star ratings. I guess I'll go first on this one since I was like held up the last one so long. I know what
it is.
This was another one I was actually kind of conflicted on. But I'm going to go ahead and go 2. Oh, Jasper, you guessed it. Wow. Yeah, I'm going to go 2. I'm going to go 2. Initially, I was like 1.5, but you know what? I don't think it's that bad. I think it's got some moments that work. It's just there's a lot of stuff. When it doesn't work, it's not that it just doesn't work. It's like it's so hard to watch. It's so cringy. Some of those kids are just too goofy, and I'm like, this is embarrassing to even look at. So, yeah, I'm going to go 2. Like, it's got some okay moments. It's got some stuff that just not okay. Robin Williams as a kid is good. It's just 10 just still seems and I get what Dustin was saying. Like, I agree, Dustin. He would be more immature because he's had no exposure to the world for the most part. But it maybe dial back the age he's supposed to be then. I'm not surprised. It's almost seems obscure at this point. You can find it, you can rent it on streaming services, but it's not like streaming on Netflix or Hulu or anything like that. It's a little harder to find. So, yeah.
I would give it I'll go 2.5. I still think the heart of the movie is worth going right down the middle of the road. But like I said, when I was younger, I probably would have given this movie a 3.5. The time has not aged this movie well. We'll put it that way.
How about you, Jaspy?
I was going to give it a 3 because I'm going to kind of go on the same point that Dustin had where the movie had a lot of heart moments. Mm-hmm. And I like that. Like the treehouse scene and all that stuff. The kids befriending him and stuff. I like those moments. Again, I kind of took those and kind of put aside my thought on how long it took the story to get going. So, yeah, I give it a 3.5. Or 3 out of 5, excuse me.
3 out of 5?
3 out of 5. There we go.
Also, interesting note is that this is a very different set of movies than what we've covered on the show so far. We've pretty much dealt it with
genre stuff.
Exactly, genre stuff. And this is, I'm
about to make it. I'm about to make it genre, so you are going to be in for a treat.
Awesome. Okay. Well, let's get on with it. So, guys, the movie studios, they need something. There's too much action and adventure and explosions, and there's too much big bombastic stuff. They want to scale it down, but they like a little touch of sci-fi. So how about some sci-fi with heart? They picked up the rights to Big and Jack. How would you combine Big and Jack into one shared cinematic universe?
I'm just gonna say that if no one's title is Big Jack, I'm throwing your idea.
Big Jack. Okay. Is that going to be your title?
Yes.
Okay. Well, Dustin sounds like he's rearing and ready to go.
I'm really excited about this pitch because I think that there is a lot of money to be made in a Big Jack shared universe. And here's how we get there. We need to do a prequel where we go back and view the history of Zoltar. Zoltar is actually like the genie in Aladdin, was placed in that gaming machine, was just waiting for his mark to show up one day and actually follow through with asking a question when it was unplugged, because when it is unplugged, it runs on voodoo. This is a little known fact. They didn't really explore in Big, but that machine runs on voodoo. And so when Josh asks to be Big, he is given that opportunity at the cost of another. He doesn't realize this because Zoltar's kind of a jerk. He at the expense of another, and Zoltar picks from any time period he wants, and he has an issue with Diane Lane, her character, because she had had an opportunity. She had an opportunity to get a wish granted from Zoltar when she was a child, and she had turned it down because she said voodoo and magic isn't real. And so he goes back in time and actually causes, at the expense of Jack Powell, now he has this advanced Werner syndrome, and everything would have been okay. The Werner syndrome would have just been normal, but when Josh goes back to reverse his wish, Zoltar extracts a heavy cost, and that's how Jack becomes who he is. Unbeknownst to that character, if we could basically cut the end of the movie off and maybe him and the kids go on like a Goonies style adventure to find the Zoltar machine, to reverse it, and that could be the end of the trilogy. I feel like Patton Oswalt in Parks and Rec right now, because they go back, they find Zoltar, they murder Zoltar in the past, and that gets Josh back to being big, and he gets to hook up with Susan in like real time. So like 2000, him and Susan have a great life, and Jack gets to live happily ever after. It's all good. Zoltar's gone, but it's all about voodoo. Hopefully that made sense.
That was amazing. I'm on board. All right, Jasper, you look like you're ready. What do you got?
Well, I had an outline. I couldn't figure out how to get it, but I wanted to basically make it to where Jack and Josh meet up. Jack then, since he's, I think what he'd be in his like 60s, he adopted Josh and was teaching him how to be a kid again, or kid as he still was getting older. But like I said, it didn't piece together.
Jack
I'm sorry.
Adopted Josh?
Yeah, because he's old. He looks older. See what I'm saying? It was bad. I had it and I lost.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine. Okay, so
I tried all yesterday to piece it together and I couldn't.
it's a little tough. So, man, Dustin's was great, and his is particularly good because you could kind of slot mine into his. So my whole idea was, it's Zoltan, right? Was that what the name is?
Zoltar.
So
I am Zoltar.
I hadn't worked in Tom Hanks's character. He could come in at some point, you know. In fact, he should. Maybe he'll be like he'll be the exposition character, like he knows about this machine, like, you know.
Sort of like his character in Angels and Demons or whatever, but like he's not really going to be around. He's like that. He's been like tracking Zoltar.
Yes,
for years.
yes, because he's an adult by the time Jack happens. Perfect, exactly. But the way I wanted to take it was Diane Lane trying to preserve her little boy forever, of course, naturally, discovers the legend of this Zoltar machine, tracks it down, gets one, brings it home. But we're going to go horror movie because, like Dustin's pitch, these wishes aren't free. There's a cost. She can't stop Jack from aging. He's still going to age 4 times as fast. In fact, every time she wishes him younger, because she's going to use the machine to wish him younger again. So he's actually like, his body matches. But every time he ages a little faster, but also there must be a life. Like, costs a life to do this. So it's going to be like Diane Lane's character having to hunt down people. It's going to be like Hellraiser, where she's got to track down these characters. Like, there must be blood sacrificed to make this happen, to keep her boy young. And so it's going to be basically Hellraiser, only instead of the one chick and creepy Frank in there, it's going to be like she's got to sacrifice these random dudes, these strays and stuff, to the Zoltar machine to keep Jack young. And that was my whole premise.
I love it.
That can slot somewhere in Dustin's universe, maybe.
I feel it. That can be it can be like after we get the Zoltar origin story and the realization that Josh, by proxy, caused Jack's symptoms.
I love that.
Then then Diane Lane gets the machine. She actually, her first blood sacrifice is Josh Baskins at the age of like 36.
That's even better. That's even better. And then I also kind of like the idea of like, she doesn't ever really want Jack to grow up. So she ends up keeping him in a younger body well past. So he ends up like an old man in a young body. So we could eventually go there.
So then it ties into Benjamin Button as well.
Yeah.
And we find out that Benjamin Button is actually a sequel to Jack. I was going to say one other thing too is Diane Lane hasn't aged. So clearly she's been using Zoltar to keep herself young as well.
Right. Exactly. That's right. She can use it. Blood sacrifice every 4 years or so.
Absolutely.
And she seemed fun in that movie. She seemed very fun.
It's always the fun ones that are creepy and do weird stuff. So.
That's true, man. That's very true. I was so glad when I heard your cinematic universe started going there. I was like, whoa, let's get dark. All right. I like it. This is going to work. No Cosby in any of these universes.
No, actually, yeah, sorry. I forgot. In my universe, Cosby is now the spokesman Instead of Jello, it's Jailo, and he doesn't get to do anything fun because he's in an orange jumpsuit.
J-Lo. Oh, it's J-Lo.
J-Lo.
Meanwhile, the teacher shows up like, nope, no part of this. Well, okay, in my movie, he'd be maybe the first one to go. Because, he's always coming around. He'd be easy to grab. That's it. That's all I got. Wow.
I think we nailed this.
That was good. That was fun. That was a good one. Big was a good pick because, and even Jack, because they're both are so outside of the range of the movies we've done. And I've been wanting to mix it up a little bit, but I'm glad we mixed it up a little bit with kind of fun movies instead of, I don't know, whatever crap I was going to throw at us.
I don't know, just something stuck. And actually what's ironic is I had thought of Big, and then I had other people trying to pitch to me, like in my office, like, you could tie it to the Matrix. Like the Zoltar machine is actually the first of the machines to rise. And I'm just like, no. Like,
wow.
There's so many weird things. But okay, really quick, I will tell you, like, if you guys got to check it out, Snowpiercer and Willy Wonka, the idea is that Ed Harris's character is the boy grown up.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah, check it out. I won't ruin anything else for you, but I can't stress enough how mind blown I was when I saw this video. I'll try to, if I remember, I'll send it to you as a link with all the other stuff I'm supposed to send you.
Oh, okay. Yeah. No, yeah, do send me. I'll, and if nothing else, I'll search it up and I'll include it in show notes to this episode so people can check it out.
There you go.
Do you want to direct anybody to your Twitter or?
No. Hey, if you want to follow me, I still talk about wrestling. I don't necessarily podcast about wrestling anymore, but if you want to follow me there at Smohawk on Twitter, you're going to get some political wit as well. So forewarned. If you're not wanting any politics, you might want to stay away from my page. But Marvel Comics, all sorts of stuff. I'm pretty geeked for Ralph Breaks the Internet next week. So I don't know. Yeah, it's weird. I do still, if you're into pro wrestling t-shirts, go to collarandelbowbrand.com. I still have a promo code you can use there, Mothership. I'm still sponsored by them until they find out I don't do wrestling podcasts anymore.
Well, I mean, would this count? You talked about wrestling just now.
I did. Boom. It does. Yeah, that's like, it's probably like the 30-day championship clause. Like the champion has to defend once every 30 days. Yeah. So as long as I mention pro wrestling in a recorded format, I'm still a wrestling podcaster.
Exactly.
So
yeah. Got you covered, man.
Beat the system.
And we'll just release remixes of your old episodes once in a while.
There we go.
Arrange it a little differently. People will be very confused about what you're talking about, but
I'm going to re-release all my old episodes backwards though, and you can try to figure out if there was ever any hidden meaning to anything I'm saying.
But it's like every episode linked. It's going to take people a while to figure it out.
Mm-hmm. You got like 350 episodes of content to run through.
Wow. All right. Hey. I'm Randall Silvey. You can follow me at Randall Silvey. It's RANDALSILVEY on Twitter. Of course, also at GCU Podcast on Twitter, or follow our parent cast at Grawlix Podcast. And also, hey, search us up on iTunes and Google Podcasts and all that, because you can get us on our own now if you want. We're uncoupled from Grawlix Podcast, is what I mean.
We are on standalone expansion.
We're still on the Grawlix Podcast
cuffing
feed.
Season is over.
Yeah. and of course, GrawlixPodcast.com. That's where we're at. Go there. Love it. Subscribe to it. Click all the affiliate links. Download everything 3 times. Make Randy feel good. Buy a t-shirt.
He's not joking. Download it. Delete it. Download it. Delete it. Download it. Delete it.
Just get in the habit. Every Monday, new episode. Do it. Just do it. All right. And tell your friends to do the same. How about you, Jasper?
You can find me on Twitter at Carranzo Media, which is KORANSO Media on Twitter.
You'll get it. You'll get the
one day.
No, they'll get it. They understand.
They do.
Yeah,
they understand me.
Yep.
I hope so.
And Dustin, thank you for joining us, man. Awesome.
Thank you for having me. It was great. Any reason to talk with you guys is always a blast. I enjoy coming on every time you guys have me, and so hopefully I can come back again in the future.
We would love it. Especially you keep throwing out good cinematic universes like that. That was amazing. I'm still on board with that. It's such a good idea. Somebody just needs to write it and start pitching it to come to places. Like,
I mean, you really don't even have to. You can literally just do the Zoltar machine, and you could probably come up with a trilogy of movies easily.
Would you even need the full rights? You just need the rights to Zoltar machine.
Yeah, I mean, it's with Fox. That stuff is getting sold anyway. I'm sure that
true.
Nobody would care.
They're just piecemealing that all out. Yep, they're just.
It's like, oh, you want the rights to Big? No, I just want the rights to the
Zoltar
machine.
Oh, $300. Cool. Thanks.
How much would it be if I get Big too? $200. What?
No, wait, why did the price go down? You know what? I'll just take it.
You were probably more into J-Lo.
Yeah, probably. But then, like, Man of Steel comes out, and I'm like, I kind of like looking at Superman's mom. Why is that?
Martha.